Steve, it has slowed down significantly. We've got 25 folks online, and here comes Dean McMahon. Let me remind everybody, we are recording, and I will edit out individual health stuff that gets mentioned. Although I have not, it's been general enough in the invocation to where I've not done so in the invocation. It kind of breaks up the invocation too. So I am going to mute everyone, and Steve, I'll let you unmute yourself, and it's in your bailiwick.
Good afternoon. Welcome to another Waynesville Rotary Club meeting on a sunny Friday afternoon. Glad to see all of you. Hope some more join as time goes on. We usually start with asking about concerns for our invocation. Are there any today? Raise your hand. Jack Ewing is our chaplain this month, so I'll turn it over to Jack.
Thank you. Let us pray. God, how grateful we are for the opportunity to gather, even virtually, on this beautiful Friday afternoon in November. We're very cognizant of turmoil and disease in the world, and we're aware of the possibility of unrest in our country, but we pray for peace. We pray that all will take the results and live with those, and we will, as a country, become even better. We pray for all of the persons who have been elected and for the roles and responsibilities they will be fulfilling in the near future. We thank you for Rotary and for its commitment to promoting good in the world and encouraging service. May each of us be inspired to serve you in meaningful and powerful ways. Amen.
Thank you, Jack. And Rich Downs signed up to be our Sergeant at Arms. Is Rich on?
No, I do not believe he is. Rick Crossgree is waving that he will handle it.
Okay, join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the four-way test of the things that we think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you, Rick. And I kind of like this business of having the Sergeant at Arms handle those two parts of our program. We may have to continue that if we ever get to meet in person. Let's see. We are beginning our Students of the Month recognition this month. Is Susan one of the 29 people online?
No.
Okay, Cecil has videos from Tuscola for our two Students of the Month. Is there any other introduction that's necessary, Cecil?
I don't have anything specifically. They do introduce themselves, and hopefully Mark Clasby and I's hard work at figuring out how this works will pay off here in just a minute. So I'll just start the two videos and we'll go from there. I will say that the young man you will see's name is incorrect on the video that was sent. His name is actually Alex Gorgiev, and it is not, I believe you'll see Anderson, although I don't remember this moment, or Johnson, you'll see Johnson. So we'll give this a try. We'll go from one to the other, hopefully, and see how it works.
Hi, my name is Alexander Georgiev, and I'm a senior at Tuscola High School. During my time as a community member and student of Haywood County, I have served as the president of my high school's math club, joined the National Honor Society, and served as a captain and #1 seed of the boys tennis team. When I graduate, I will also receive a diploma from the North Carolina School of Science and Mathematics online program. I hope to attend UNC Chapel Hill to pursue a degree in computer science. Thank you so much for recognizing me as the Rotary Student of the Month.
Hi, I'm Emily Duvall and I'm a senior at Tuscola High School. During my years as a student and as a community member of Haywood County, I have worked at the Waynesville Recreation Center in child care and after school help for 2 years. I've also been a part of Tuscola's chapter of National Honor Society doing community service. I have supported our school's athletes in our Spirit Club, and I was recognized as a junior marshal last spring. After I graduate from Tuscola High School, I hope to go to Appalachian State University, where I want to pursue a master's degree in communication disorders and sciences to become a speech therapist. I would like to thank you for recognizing me as Rotary Student of the Month.
Let's see. Well, we have a new member to bring in today. Gonna let John Keith bring in our Chief of Police, David Adams.
Well, we were all fortunate to have Chief Adams speak to us a few weeks ago, and certainly appreciate him stepping up to the plate, especially in these uncertain times, Chief. Your plate's full and everybody else is full, and these are strange times. So anybody that steps up to further offer their services to our community is really appreciated. And we'll look back on this year of virtual inductions as something unique and special. I mentioned before the history of having our police chiefs on board, and Chief Hollingshead, former Chief Hollingshead, I guess still is a member, and he's rocking between Raleigh and Hendersonville. I don't know that if he's still, is he still involved with Hendersonville?
Yeah, I think he will be through the rest of the year, more than likely.
Since you did give the program, I'll just turn it over to the chief just to reiterate a little bit about his family and where he is, but we're glad to have you.
Thank
welcome
you.
to Rotary.
Sure, thank you. It's an honor to join your Rotary Club, so I've been looking forward to it. It'll be much better when we get to do it in person. So, like you said, this has been a crazy year on many fronts. So, it started out in March, and like it's end of year, strangely as well. So, we've survived the police department. We've done well. We've hired 4 new officers this year, so we have 1 more to hire, and we'll be fully staffed, which is a good thing. So the community in general, Waynesville and Haywood County, has been very supportive of the police department, which is very encouraging this year. So that makes our jobs much easier. Things are going well. Like I said before, if you didn't hear, I have been married 28 years, 2 sons, 19 and 14 years old. And my oldest son is going to Southwestern Community College, and my younger son's in 8th grade. I haven't moved to Haywood County yet, so still looking for some property.
Very good, David. We're very glad to have you as a member. And we will put you to work for the Rotary as well as the town of Waynesville as soon as we can.
Looking forward to it.
Cecil, you said we have a Paul Harris Fellow to award today?
We do, and if you would allow me to do so, I'll hold that for just 1 minute. Brandon Wilson would like to introduce his guest, and he sent me that chat. You're not aware of that. Brandon?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Would like to introduce Mr. David Carricker again. He's on the call today, the new development director at Haywood Pathways. He is joining us again for his second Zoom call with our club, and obviously really looking at him at becoming a potential member. So just wanted to welcome him back to our meeting today.
True, very good. We thought David was just kind of joining in. He announced himself earlier. But thank you, Brandon.
I was late getting on, Steve. I'm sorry.
It's okay. We got you. Cecil, Paul Harris Fellow.
Steve, our Paul Harris Fellow was on here a minute ago, but I don't see him now. So perhaps I should simply hold that for a while.
All right. We'll keep you all in suspense until we can get our newest Paul Harris Fellow online with us. Brings me to something we forgot to do last week, Happy Dollars. Now, I'll start out because we got a certificate of occupancy for our house yesterday, the day before. And so I'm going to do $5 for that and $5 for my daughter's last chemotherapy session this week. Anybody else have Happy Dollars? Tom Napco.
Have to unmute yourself.
Hey, Cecil,
Hey, Larry.
I'm gonna go $10 because we're getting ready to put the last piece of metal on this barn roof.
Okay. Steve, did you get that?
Yes, I did.
All right. And for those of you who don't know, Larry's coming to us from the top of a roof today.
A barn roof at that.
Barn roof.
A
Tom,
horse barn roof.
All right.
Well, my kids have gone into the horse business.
I've got two happy events, both of them $5. One of my rentals got hit by Hurricane Zeta and knocked the hot tub cover and side porch off, but the cabin is still rentable, so we're still in business. And the problem now is waiting to see when we can get the materials and the contractor in to do it. And the second $5 is about our Christmas food basket program. I've been waiting for almost 8 weeks trying to get pricing and confirmation from Ingalls on the availability of the food and how it might be processed and what the cost is. They're having a difficult time in getting the canned goods and especially the hams. This year, our total cost for one basket to feed a family of 4 has escalated to $45 per box. It's up $14 over what we paid last year. The school system has the documentation out to the students, and we're anticipating that those names and numbers would be back to us by the end of November. So the other wrinkle with this year is that we cannot have more than one family per car do the delivery. The health department said that we can only have one Rotarian and his family do the delivery and not multiple Rotarians or multiple families in the same vehicle because of the COVID. So we need to start getting together the list of Rotarians willing to drive, and we need to start collecting funds to start paying for the baskets. It's really a short period of time, and the COVID has really messed up Ingalls and our whole ability to collect the funds and to get this program up and running.
thank you, Tom. I'll take you off the announcements.
Okay.
Anybody else have a Happy Dollar?
I do. A month or two ago, we celebrated Mary Ann's 90th birthday, and I kind of kicked that off by making a $20 contribution. Well, this past week, a little over a week ago, we celebrated my wife's 70th birthday, and I wouldn't want to give any less for Cynthia than I would for Mary Ann. So I'm going to throw in $20 for my wife's 70th birthday.
Very good.
Steve, this is Ed.
Yes, Ed.
Now, I've got $5 I'd certainly like to add to your collection. And I'm happy that the barrage of political ads have ended on television. So,
Amen.
amen.
How much did you say? $5?
Yes, I know that's probably should be 500 or 5,000 for the amount of joy, but $5.
David Adams wants to get in.
Who?
David Adams.
Oh, David.
No, I didn't say anything.
Oh, I thought you were waving.
No.
You got to be careful now when you wave. I'm going to call on you.
And we may charge you money.
Yeah.
Any more dollars? Well, that's a pretty good collection here today. So we'll move on from here. Announcements. Next Thursday is our foundation program. It'll be our weekly program. And if I remember right, it starts at 1 o'clock, just like our programs. But if it's not at 1 o'clock, we'll give you an update sometime during the week. Sandy or Rick, either one of you have an update on Take Out Polio?
The last number I got just the other day is we have received $1,445, I believe it is. And if I did my math right, that will pay for 2,413 response. And we want to thank all of you who've responded.
Sandy?
Yeah.
What would $1,715 pay for?
Oh.
That's as of 12:30 p.m. today.
Oh, okay. So you got more. So more.
More, okay.
And every dollar we give is matched by $2 from the Gates Foundation.
Gates, right.
And so that's fantastic. Okay, Tom just told us about the Christmas baskets. Bill Owen, do you have an update on backpacks?
Yeah, am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Today we delivered food for 280 hungry students in Haywood County. There were 28 boxes, and Charles Umberger and I delivered most of those. Some went to Clyde by the van from Manna. So we did our part to help. I want to tell what happened last Friday, if there's a few minutes. Have I got a few minutes?
Sure.
Okay. Last Friday, as I was approaching North Canton in my car, I got about 1/10 of a mile away from the school, and there was a car in the middle of the road with the Jeep lights blinking and a lady standing out in the street. And so I stopped, and she told me she had just run out of gas and she needed to get her tardy son to school. So I said, well, hop in and we'll get you to the school. So we left her car sitting in the middle of the road and took her to school. And as she was walking her son in and doing whatever they do when they show up late, I unloaded the boxes on the curb, and she came out, and we got back to her car, and I said, how are we going to solve your car? And she said, I don't know. She told me where she lived and said, well, I can let you take me to my house. And so she did. I took her, we picked up an empty gas container and went from there to Ingalls, and she didn't have any money. So I got her 2 gallons of gas, went back to her car, which was still luckily sitting in the middle of the road with its lights blinking. And so we poured it into her Jeep, and luckily it started up, and she was ready to go on her way. But she was extremely thankful number one, to have had help that day, but also because her son has been getting food for years. And she expressed that thanks to me, and she wanted me to express that thanks to our club. So it pleases me to represent Waynesville Rotary in that way last week. So I wanted to relay that to the club members. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. You can claim all that time as engagement time.
I think I did. I put down, it took about 2 hours altogether, not just to Canton and back, but to Bethel as well.
Very good. So you have people that can help you deliver next week?
I'm going to be working on that. They're
Okay.
starting to request more food with more schools. So I'll be in touch with several more people. Right. It's starting to pick up. Things are looking a little bit more toward normal as far as the schools are concerned. Thank
Very
you.
good. Any other announcements?
Steve, if I may, I'd like to point out and welcome for the first time to our Zoom meetings, Tony Caudle, who is making his debut appearance. Tony, welcome to Zoom.
Hey, Tony.
I think Tony says thank you.
All right. Did Billy Case come on to introduce our speaker? I don't think so.
No.
All right, we'll let Jack Ewing take over the honors. He volunteered.
I did. As it turned out, I had the pleasure of spending several hours with Eric Romaniszyn on Wednesday when we hiked the Waynesville watershed, and happened to have an opportunity to ask a few questions of him, having no idea that I would need to share that information 2 days later. I just pray my memory's appropriate. He can correct me if I'm wrong. Eric is the executive director of Haywood Waterways, a very significant nonprofit organization here in Haywood County. Eric has been with Haywood Waterways for 14 years.
16 now, Jack.
Oh, yeah, I knew I would get it wrong. 16 years. He started out in a part-time position. And has it been 14 years that you've been full-time?
Yes. Yeah. You can
Good. I'm glad I got one. I got that one right. Eric will share a lot of information, I know, about Haywood Waterways and Haywood County and the significance of the work that they do. I just want to affirm the fact that Haywood Waterways is an incredible asset for Lake Junaluska, specifically, has been very instrumental in helping to clean up stream banks. And sometimes when we look at how much trash comes into the lake, we wonder whether we're making a difference. But we really are, and we're grateful. Certainly, those of us who live at Lake Junaluska and those who work or used to work at Lake Junaluska are grateful for the work that Haywood Waterways does. And so I will invite Eric to share the program for us today.
Thank you, Jack. Appreciate the kind words, and thanks everyone for having me. I assume everyone can hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. And Cecil, is there a way to share my screen?
You've got the ability. You have to click on share the screen yourself. And
I see it there. All right. Can y'all see that okay?
You've started your screen sharing. There you go.
All right. So I saw a lot of familiar faces in the crowd, and I apologize. You may hear some same things you've heard in the past, but I am a firm believer that the more often you hear something, the more likely you are to remember it. So I'm happy to repeat myself a little bit, but I think the message that we try to say is very important anyway. So if you are new in the crowd and haven't heard of Haywood Waterways, we are a nonprofit dedicated solely to protecting and improving the surface water, all our rivers, streams, and lakes in Haywood County. And we do that by a lot of education and volunteer engagement, and also working with partners to acquire the technical and financial resources to fix the issues. We focus only on non-point source pollution, basically whatever rains, whatever washes off our rooftops and roads and landscapes, which is very hard to control. So we all contribute in some manner or another. So the federal and state agencies and local governments like to work with grassroots organizations like us to look at a holistic picture and holistic solutions to have some benefit. We're not finger pointers. We're not trying to get anyone in trouble. We are just here to help those who want it. So this is kind of a general presentation I have about what the water resources we have are in Haywood County, some of the issues that they face, as well as some of the solutions. I'm not a doom and gloom kind of person. I'm all about finding the ways, and I believe they are out there. So before I get really in depth into it, I want you to pause real quick. Think of how did you use clean water this morning? Kind of a fun question when I ask fifth graders that, and inevitably it comes up that I mentioned how many had their coffee, kind of as a fun, kind of a funny thing to ask, not expecting great response, but I usually get a lot of response. These fifth graders drinking their caffeinated coffee. I guess the teachers got them pretty active these days. So, all right. I think we live in a very blessed area. Western North Carolina, Haywood County in general. We are the highest watershed east of the Mississippi. I think that's a very interesting fact. Another interesting fact is that no water flows in here, not from another state, not from another county. And the county line is the ridge line. So it's like a bathtub. Any raindrop that falls on the edge and it falls inside the tub, that's in the Pigeon River watershed of Haywood County. If it falls outside the tub, well, that's a different watershed. So, and the nice thing is it's flowing through the Blue Ridge Parkway, the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, our national forests, and it's coming through pretty clean, which gives us really sole responsibility for how clean our water is. There used to be an issue with acid rain. You might remember that a decade or two ago. But with the transition from coal to natural gas, places like Purchase Knob where they monitor ozone and acid rain, there really has seen it drop off. The pH in soils and water coming back up, much healthier conditions. So the issues that we're faced, which I'm about to show you, are really our responsibility. Here's just some quick facts I wanted to share with you. I'm happy to send this to anyone who's interested. I can just point out that we have a lot of miles of streams here. That's kind of a no-brainer if you've driven around the county. There are streams everywhere. And those streams support a tremendous diversity of wildlife. And you might, if you know your fish, you might see a few darters in here. Highest diversity of darters anywhere in the world, right here in the Southern Appalachian Mountains, Western North Carolina. Also freshwater mussels, which you see there in the upper left, that's our resident endangered mussel, the Appalachian elk toe, which there still exists in the Pigeon. That's a tangerine darter up in the upper right, which you can catch on a fly rod. I've done it. And then caddisflies at the bottom, which are really cool insects. They're like butterflies. They secrete silk out of the mouth, and they glue together sticks and rocks and create these little homes they carry with them. So another species at highest diversity anywhere in the world, caddisflies in the Southern Appalachian Mountains. And those help to support, of course, bigger organisms are our resident giant salamander, the hellbender, one of only two in the world. The other one's in Japan. It's a great photo of one holding onto a snake. They don't usually eat snakes. I'm curious to know what was going on with this. And what happens in the water, of course, also supports what's outside the water. Think of like hatching mayflies, supporting all the birds and the bats out there. But also all that water supports a lot of flowering plants. Again, highest diversity than anywhere in the world, flowering plants right here in the Southern Appalachian Mountains. So we really live in a fantastic area. But beyond that, there's also a lot of benefits for us. And of course, clean water is good for drinking. We all need it. Also makes great beer, great spirits, things like that, if you like those. So if you're curious, here's where your water supplies come from if you live in one of these municipalities. As Jack mentioned, the Waynesville Watershed, a great place to go, and they do offer tours a couple times a year. And if you're interested, just contact me and I can get you on a waiting list and get up in there. It's a beautiful place. And of course, if you live out in a rural area, you rely on rainwater recharging your well. So another reason we like to have that rainwater clean. So agriculture, we can't forget where our food comes from. It doesn't come from the grocery store or a package. It comes from farmers who need clean water to grow their food. And you can see the economic impact of this as well. You know, there's a lot of different reasons we like clean water. And I try to touch on all the common reasons in my presentations, and some like it for wildlife and nature, some like it for beauty, some like it for growing food, some like it for their wallet, any number of reasons. So I try to touch on those, but you can see there quite a significant economic impact that water has in farming, as well as tourism. And you can see how it's grown just in the last 30 years. This is Haywood County numbers, which anyone can look at by going to the North Carolina Department of Commerce and Tourism. And I like to believe that a big chunk of that money is here because of water, fishing, paddling, hiking to waterfalls, tubing, just things like that. And here's a picture of a fish caught in the West Fork of the Pigeon. And Wildlife Resources did a great study a few years ago of what that trout industry does for our economy. Now that's throughout Western North Carolina, you see those numbers there, but Haywood County, as you know, is a highly popular, one of the more popular counties for trout fishing. So a significant chunk of that money is here in Haywood County. I saw fish that big in Richland Creek behind Walmart, by the way. There are big fish all over this county. We can't forget Lake Junaluska, one of our biggest reservoirs in the area, of course, attracts a lot of people and money to the community because of that. And if the lake didn't dredge it every so often, it would turn into a giant wetland. And it wouldn't be as pretty. It'd still have the stream running through it, but it'd be a lot of cattails and mosquitoes probably. So that, of course, economic driver supports a lot of jobs. This is an interesting fact from a long time ago, but I believe it still has relevance today, especially when I started working for Haywood Waterways. Haywood County had a population of 54,000. Today it's up to 61,000, and a lot of retirees, second home buyers. Any of you who are real estate agents might know this better, but I believe a lot of it is because of the clean water that people are moving here. But that does cause headaches and some issues for our waterways. And with that population growth comes more roads, more rooftops, more driveways, things like that, which lead to the number one cause of our water quality problems, and that is runoff. Think about when it rains, what do you see washing off our parking lots and rooftops and streets? So I like this hydrograph. It's not mine, like this slide, I should say, but imagine yourself in the National Forest. You're standing there and a big rain comes in. We'll say a 1-inch rainstorm, pretty significant. You're going to see that stream at your feet. This is called a hydrograph. The water level is going to rise over a certain period of time, and then it's going to go back down. You might see a little sediment in there, but in the National Forest where it's well protected, you won't see much. And the stream banks are probably pretty healthy, not much erosion. Now you replace that landscape with a shopping plaza, for example, where we no longer have pervious surface that can absorb water. We have impervious surface that instead sends the water off as fast as possible downstream, becomes someone else's problem. And that same 1-inch rainstorm now, that hydrograph looks like this. And so that stream now has a whole lot more power to it, that discharge. And the water comes faster, higher runoff, and we get situations like this. This is Richland Creek during a heavy rainstorm. And I think an extreme example is this picture right here from 2004, if you were here during the big hurricanes, back to back. And now that's an extreme example, but these pictures that you see are pretty common. But that stormwater discharge causes issues with our infrastructure, our homes, and not just water quality. So these are the typical pollutants that Haywood Waterways tries to address, of course. I'll pause for a second, see if you can guess which one of that is our number one issue. Trash is certainly the most sightly, the most visible, but it is not our number one pollutant. But if you have to think about drawing tourists to the area, as well as our own personal enjoyment of our waterways, trash is certainly something that inhibits that, but it is not our number one pollutant. Nutrients, we're talking about runoff from fertilizers, from animal waste, things like that, instead of getting absorbed by the plants or the soil, especially if they're fertilizers spread before rainstorm too fast, too quickly, just get caught up in runoff and carried downstream. Very big issue for reservoirs like Lake Jones or Lake Logan, if there's too much, can cause algae blooms and significant fish kills. Because when that algae decomposes, it sucks all the oxygen out of the water and the fish essentially drown from no oxygen. Third on the list is our number one pollutant, dirt, washing off the landscape. Dirt, why? It's natural. Why do we care about it? Well, anything in excess is an issue. And think about where trout, darters lay their eggs. Think about where stoneflies, mayflies, those insects that trout eat, they live in those rocks. Think about a farmer pulling water out for irrigation. Think about a dam that might be using the power company using a dam for electric production. Sediment fills all those things in and can cause a lot of issues. So I'll be talking more about that later. Pathogens, I would say, is probably our second biggest issue. That is bacteria. You might hear the word fecal coliform bacteria. That's what the state measures, but it's really not a big issue. What is an indicator of is gastroenteritis, E. coli, all the nasty stuff that comes out of our guts and warm-blooded animals that ends up in the water. That's what we're concerned about. Then anything leaking from cars, automobiles, pesticides that we might use on our landscapes, and thermal stress, that's a different one. All our streams are cold water streams that support organisms like trout. Trout like temperatures about 70 degrees or less. Picture yourself standing in the Walmart parking lot on a hot summer day in your bare feet. You are not going to be able to stand there very long before it starts burning your feet. That's called thermal stress. And that asphalt will hold that heat energy until the next rainstorm. And when that happens, that heat goes from the asphalt to the water flows downstream to the closest waterway, and we get elevated stream temperatures. We have temperature gauges in Richland Creek that shows that it's 80 degrees in August and September. So thinking back to that impact the trout industry has for our local economy, if you've got high water temperatures killing the trout, there's a risk that there's going to be less tourism coming to the area, as well as for our own local benefit as well. I like to fish, I like to eat trout, I like to put it on the table. And if I can't catch them, it's an issue. So you can read through this list. I already talked about some of the issues, why we care most about the sediment in our streams. I like to tell kids, think about your electric bill. Who pays it? Your parents. Well, if the power company has to dredge the reservoir to make sure they can produce electricity, they're not going to pay for that. They're going to charge your parents that. And what do you think that's going to do to the number of Christmas presents you get under the tree every year? Of course, that's where we get the wide eyes and the light bulbs going off. Like, that makes sense. All right, so here's our main sources of that sediment. Eroding stream banks from that high discharge, that high power, those high water flows. And you get it from a lot of these mountainside roads that aren't maintained or weren't built to sustain long-term. Of course, landslides are a big issue, as well as that picture in the bottom corner with the cattle and the stream. That's a kind of a classic picture. We're getting eroding stream banks, dirt, a poor streamside buffer, no shade on the stream. You're getting direct deposit of nutrients and bacteria, so all kinds of issues there. Here's a classic picture of Lake Junaluska. Maybe Jack knows, but this was way back when his time. I was told there was 15,000 truckloads and 100,000 tons of sediment that came out in this cleaning about the year 2000. Significant. I like to think that's dropped off over the years because of our work. Let's see. These are just some quick pictures of the sources of bacteria. You got municipal sewer lines that might be failing. You've got failing septic systems. You've got livestock in streams that can all cause issues. And that bottom right picture, that was just a measurement of Richland Creek on a hot summer day. The state standard is 200 colonies per 100 milliliters, so it's well above that. And of course, the higher concentrations you have, the higher risk of E. coli, gastroenteritis, pathogens being exposed to anyone in the waterway. I tell the kids, if you want to be a biologist, first rule in biology is don't ever lick anything, and you might be all right. So I just pointed this picture out. I wanted to talk about the thermal stress in this long parking lot, but I already talked about that. And then non-point source pollution. I love this slide because when you get all these different chemicals and stuff in the water, you don't know how things are interacting. It might cause some great unknowns that we don't know about. So gotta watch your back for jaws there. So there's a lot of information here, but I just want to clarify that Haywood Waterways, we do monitor our streams, looking for whether they're improving or degrading. We don't use that information to, again, point fingers. We use it to justify grant applications because no one's going to give us money if we can't justify a problem. So we talk a lot about degraded streams, but the state talks a lot about impaired waters. And if a stream is so bad that it's considered impaired, well, that's a big issue and something we want to take care of. The nice thing is that the state labels a stream as impaired, it opens up a lot more funding opportunities. So on this list, anything with an IR category of 5 or 4 is considered impaired. So Richland Creek on it for bacteria, some on there for turbidity, that means sediment, some for fish community or benthic, poor. That basically means the aquatic organisms they see in the stream aren't what they expect to see in a clean stream. So, all right, but there are solutions. Again, I'm not a doom and gloom guy. I've been around this job for 16 years and I've seen a lot of positive, good solutions here, things that are working. So what are they? Well, one of the simplest things we can do is simply plant a tree. The shade helps keep our streams cool, but it's those trees. You've all seen a tree fall in the forest and you see how big that root wad is. It's those root wads that really do the most for holding our stream banks together. And that lower left picture, that was a new one I've added to this presentation. On the right side of that, you can see some of the exotic grasses that we typically use for our lawns. And I want to highlight the length of the root system. It's very short, just at the top of there. And they don't send very deep. And really that soil is very exposed to erosion. What he's holding up is some native grasses. Now, these ones are from way out out west, but in Haywood County, we do have native grasses that grow like this. Just how long those root systems are, and those roots that grow to the fineness of our hair, if we actually had hair. And that really holds those soil molecules together. So planting a tree goes a long way. Here's a great example of something that happened at the Lake Junaluska Golf Course. If you've been there where the Greenway parks to go over to Industrial Park, this is the parking lot kind of where just before you merge onto the highway. If you go up there now, you can't even tell that any work was done here because it's all grown in with plants, again, from the biggest job of holding these tracks together. But I want to point out what you see in that bottom right slide. It looks like those rock veins, line of rock extending out into the stream. That's a common engineering practice. And you might notice that the rocks start low in the foreground and then they get higher as we go downstream. Well, of course, that's designed for water. As water works against gravity, it slows down. And they are shaped at an angle like that because as the water slows down, it's also pushed to the middle of the stream. And when the water slows down and is in the middle of the stream rather than up against the bank, well, we don't get that erosion. So it's a very common engineering practice, those rock veins. For farmers, we do a few things for areas where livestock might have access to the stream. Of course, we do fence them off. That's the quickest way. But of course, livestock need water. So every situation, we'll dig a well and provide a water source for them. And I'll say this: at Haywood Waterways, we don't get involved with the implementation of these projects. We just help get the grants. It's really our local Haywood Soil and Water Conservation District and the Natural Resource Conservation Service. They're the ones working with the farmers to do the work here. And in that upper picture, if you got a farmer with pasture on two sides of the stream or crops on two sides, we'll put a designated crossing point instead of a free-for-all or a lot more stream bank to protect. Because by having one spot, it's a lot easier to maintain. In terms of addressing that pathogen issue, we started a septic repair program a long time ago, and I believe we're up to about 150 failing septic systems that will help fix. And you can read the data there. Each fix prevents 360 gallons of untreated wastewater per day from getting in our streams. So multiply 360 by 100, what I just said, 150, times that by 365 days in a year. That's up in the millions of gallons. That's of untreated wastewater prevented from getting in our streams. And the funders really like this program because a properly working septic system should last 30 years or more compared to some of these other practices which they expect might last 15 or 20. So when a funder is thinking about the return on their investment, this is a popular one. And today I just got word that another grant to the Pigeon River Fund was approved to fix more of these septic systems. So if you know anyone who might have a septic system, especially if they're in stream that might be having issues, please have them give me a call or the Environmental Health Department and ask about this program. We pay 75% of the cost. Average repair is about $4,500, so we pay about $3,250, I think it is. So it's significant, especially for low-income households. A bioswale, basically, this is a glorified ditch, but instead of trying to get that water to funnel off as quick as possible, it's about slowing it down, letting some of it absorb back into the ground or by the plants. Similar to that is a bioretention area or a rain garden. It's absorbed to collect water and let it infiltrate back into the ground rather than wash it off. These are school pictures up, by the way, up by the Bethel Elementary School there. Bethel area. Constructed wetlands. Wetlands are great for holding water, filtering out pollutants, but of course everyone concerns about mosquitoes. We don't see these as much as rain gardens. Rain gardens designed to drain within 24 to 48 hours, whereas a wetland will hold water for a lot longer. And the nice thing is, plants that grow in these systems also have a lot of microbes grow on them, which are great at absorbing nutrients, pollutants, things like that. We advocate for a lot of storage, whether as simple as a rain barrel, or what you see on the lower right is an underground storage system of milk crates where the surface area support a lot of microbes that have helped break down those pollutants. It also holds a lot of water, helps it cool down. With the gravel base, it goes back down into the ground. And this is in the front of the Bethel Elementary School, and just across the street, 100 yards away, is the Pigeon River. So this is very important when we allow water to infiltrate back into the ground for feeding our streams, especially during drought conditions, when there's no other water getting to them except what's in the ground. So we try to get that water back in as much as possible. You might see these along a mountainside road, simple sediment traps designed to capture some water, let the sediment filter out, and the water gets to the top, it flows over. You might see these along mountainside roads. These are like these little rock veins. Sometimes they might be made out of hay bales. You'll see, designed to slow water, let the sediment filter out by letting the water go by. On steep roads, this is one of the few places we'll advocate for impervious surfaces. It's really not much better. It will hold a road together better than asphalt. Again, if it's maintained though, and start cracking. But in these situations, the thing you got to do is disperse that stormwater. Don't let it concentrate. So putting in more culverts, more drop inlets, rather than concentrating that stormwater. And of course, we try to promote a lot of this low impact development or sustainable development. We're not anti-development, but there are certain ways that we can do it, protecting our waterways as well as protecting these people's investment. Make sure the roads don't erode, home sites don't erode, things like that. Let's get that for now. Another thing I mentioned in the beginning is we do a lot of education at Haywood Waterways. You might see signage we have out, meetings, do a lot of publications, maintain a website, social media presence. But that's reading material. But I like to think that engaging people, getting their hands dirty, is a much more a better way that people can understand the importance of their waterways, and also make them feel good for getting actively involved in the direct projects that improve waterways. So, storm drain stenciling, removing invasive plant species, planting trees, leaders in the creek. Adopt a stream. Some of you might be involved with this program. It's basically cleaning up trash. And we've had great success since 2009. Picked up almost 30 tons of trash. Every time the wind blows, every time it rains, we get more trash in the streams, but we'll keep on it. It's a very popular program. Kids in the Creek, of course, are most popular. Gets every 8th grader out in the county, out in the stream, flipping over rocks. And our data show that this is very effective at instilling environmental responsible behaviors. I've talked with folks who remember doing the program 20 years ago. I'd say it was one of their most memorable experiences. To know your watershed. All too often, we're involved in those degraded streams, but as you know, Haywood County has a lot of beautiful areas, those headwaters. And so we like to lead hikes and other things, getting people out there as they appreciate what is in Haywood County. And I love that lower left picture. That's the top of Rough Creek there in Canyon. It's a great time to hike in the winter because, well, the brambles aren't there, but also when you get to the top, you can get through all the snow peaks and the Great Smoky Mountains that are behind us. This is a great program, erosion and sediment control training for contractors, the guys with the shovels on the ground, teaching them how to install these erosion control measures, but also, more importantly, if they see an issue, what they can do to fix it right away rather than having to call the designer and wait. It could be weeks. So it's a very popular program with those bulldoze operators and guys with the shovel. As I mentioned before, we do a lot of monitoring. And if there's something that Rotary Club or other clubs that you all are involved with, we do offer volunteer programs for individuals and groups, helping us monitor water quality, go pick up trash, stencil storm drains, plant trees, anything like that. If you're interested, just give me a call or shoot me an email. HaywoodWaterways.org, our website has all the info. And so just to end here, I got to highlight that we're a small staff. Haywood Waterways, there's 3 of us. We really couldn't do anything without community support. So I have to highlight just the great partners that we have. And there's many on here that I'm sure I'm missing, but we really couldn't do it alone. And thankfully, we live in a community where people really care about their water. It's not a partisan issue at all. We've got all political parties involved with Haywood Waterways, active members. So it's great to see. And I always get asked this, how can you help? Well, it all starts at home. Think about the ways you can do to conserve water, protect water. Think about when you spread fertilizers or herbicides. Think about where your storm gutters go. Turn off the faucet when you brush your teeth, things like that. Also, I would love to have more membership with Haywood Waterways. If you're not, I'll point out that every dollar we bring in from our membership, we leverage $21 from grants and other sources, fundraising events for greater good. So we don't just sit on that dollar. We put it to good use. Of course, tell a friend, and I invite people to get out and explore. Get in the stream, go fishing, stick your head underwater, see what's living under there. It's a beautiful place. All right. So with that, thank you for your time and listening. And I'm happy to entertain some questions. I think we left some time for that. And if you happen to have something that pops up later on, certainly give me a call or shoot me an email. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Do we have some questions for Eric?
I'm going to put on my HCC hat right now and just reach out to you, Eric. I'm the president here at HCC now, and I'd love to connect offline separately. I saw that you listed Haywood Community College as a partner, and I'm certain that's happened over the years through our forestry and fish and wildlife programs that we're so proud of. So I'd love to connect and see what we can do to increase, deepen that partnership.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have to admit, you've been on my short list of people to contact, but my short list grows more and more every day.
Well, and COVID's really impacted the outreach and meeting and greeting kinds of activities, but I'm glad to make the connection here.
Mike McLean.
Yeah, Eric, I was wondering if we had an update on the project over at the Shelton campus and the work that we talked about last year. I know it takes time for this, but do you have an update on that?
Yeah, I did. And we recently heard that we did not get the grant that we applied for. But I also got a phone call the other day about someone pointed out that those crosses at the Salvation Army, erosion's got so bad that they've been knocked over and then they're laying across the stream. So that kind of highlights the need that I'm looking at other grant possibilities and probably be not to spring those the next real opportunities so we can go for some funding.
Okay, thank you.
Final question? I see none. Steve, back to you.
Thank you, Cecil, and thank you, Eric. That's great to get an update from you on the waterways. You do a good job. We've seen a lot of impact from it. So thanks for being here and thanks for what you do.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And Cecil's invitation about considering joining Waynesville Rotary is wide open to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Glad you consider that. Anything else for the good of Rotary this afternoon? If not, we will see you next Friday. No, next Thursday at 1 o'clock for the foundation program. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Yeah.